learning Perek and Tanya, and the Alter Rebbe is discussing here the various forms of tikkun for different transgressions, but that's only a sidebar to really the nekuda, the ikar nekuda. The main point of the chapter is how do you deal with food, indulgences in food, indulgences in speech, and things like that. And at the end, actually, he's going to talk about secular wisdom, which is very, very important for us to discuss, because we have here everyone here has, and myself included, I went to high school, you went to college, the Rebbe went to college, so we have to relook at this issue, and I hope to tackle that on the Monday next week. I don't think we'll get to it today. But until now, the Alter Rebbe said that when you eat food that's permissible, it's kosher, and you abuse the food by overeating and indulging and on, having a taiva, an indulgence, that energy, you and your energy are lowered to the domain of what we call shalosh klippos atmeis. But there's something else that happens. Nasai dam ubasar kipsoroi. It becomes your flesh. It's like we think, we just put it in our mouth, and maybe we indulged, and we'll do tshuva for that. My dear friends, in a way, it's too late. It's never too late. But in a way, you got a piece of meat on your body that has part of that taiva. And that's the question. How do you rectify that? That's what we're going to learn today. It's an amazing thought that the Alter Rebbe is going to say, that there's a way of even rectifying a past situation that's part of your body. Let's learn inside now. We're on page Yud Gimel, and we're Ach Mikol Mokim, 4 lines from the top. We're just going to review. We learned it, we really read it, but we're going to review again. Ach Mikol Mokim Kodim Shechazer L'Kedusha. Before this energy is brought back to its place of holiness, Hu Sitracha V'Klippa. It's right now in the domain of Sitracha. V'Gam Achekach, and even after it's brought back, Harishimu Imenen Nishur Dovuk Beguf. There is a remnant left in the body. Why? And he gives you a reason here, Hillel. Liyois. Liyois is because. It's a reason. Ki mikol maichel umashka, because from every food matter and drink matter, nasa takef. Look at the word takef. Immediately. Not tomorrow, but immediately when you digest it, it becomes immediately dam, blood, ubasar, and flesh, mipsoroi, of your flesh. It becomes part of your bones and your body. So therefore, there's a remnant there. Says the Alter Rebbe, Belochein, therefore, tzoroch haguf lechibut hakever. Our bodies will need the spiritual rectification called the banging of the grave. We're not going to go into the details what that is, but what. Just it's a spiritual process. Linakoisai, to purify, to clean, ulitaroi, and to purify metumosai, the body from its contamination. Shekibel bahanoyas olam hazeh, that it received from the benefit of the food that was kosher but was eaten with an indulgence, for the neshama to go back to Hashem in the most pure way. It needs to have chibud hakever, v'tainugav, and to cleanse it from the pleasure metumas klipas noiga, from klipas noiga b'shedin yidoin, and a Jewish shindalit. So we're not talking about now a non-Jewish shindalit, which we spoke about earlier, right? When you eat something not kosher, you're dragging, and we discussed this in the last year, very important, we're dragging our nefesh abamis, who was neutral, into the realm of goyishkeit, which is shadin in the Lashon HaZayar, shadin nuchroin, we're bringing a Shin Dalet that's not Jewish. It's a scary thought. We're Jews. Guess what? And our Nefesh Habamis, we learned, is part of the Jewish DNA and structure. Says the Alter Rebbe, yeah. But when you eat treif knowingly, remember we discussed that, knowingly, then you've schlepped your Jewish Nefesh Habamis into the world of Goyishkeit. And that's a whole different issue. But here he says no. Here, since we're talking about something that's kosher, just that it was eaten for taiva, Hillel, is this clear? Over here, it's only a matter, you have to have rectification, chibud hakever, you need to be cleansed to go back to the original state in Gan Eden and all that, but it was only shading Yudoin, only a Jewish Shin Dalet that wrapped itself around your neshama. And again, what's the reason why it's only Yonis in a shading Yudoin and not shading Nuchroin? Because it's kosher versus not kosher. Is that clear? Before I go on, I have to make sure is that clear or you want to ask me something? Okay. Eliam Cain. Now here the Alter Rebbe throws out another bomb, another revolutionary thought. I could run to the Alter Rebbe and kiss him for what he did here. He's so delicious. Mi sheloi nene mo'ilam hazeh kol yomov. Unless you're someone that's never had hana, satisfaction, from the world we live in. Like who? Rabbeinu HaKodesh. Like Rabbi Yehuda HaNosi, known as Rabbeinu HaKodesh, the Holy Rebbe. Now, my friends, when's the last time you met someone who was like Rabbeinu HaKodesh? I mean, it's pretty hard to find your average Jew on the street in Bet Shemesh, Mea Sharon, Borough Park, or Wyoming that's like Rabbeinu HaKodesh. So, you have to...
Maybe the Balik Rebbe.
So, I hear you. So, the question that you have to ask yourself when you learn these words in Tanya, why does the Alter Rebbe mention it? This Tanya is written for Beinanim, for the average potential person, not for tzaddikim. So telling me, Yonis in the Lubavitcher Rebbe, don't answer the question, because I'm not the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I don't think you're the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So if he mentions it, it has to somehow apply to us. And that's really what we want to discuss now. How is this line relevant to us? So Rabbi Yoel explained it to us, and he explains it like this. If you look into the Gemara, it's a Gemara. This citation, if you look into the reference in Tanya, is a Gemara. The Gemara speaks about, Rashi brings it. Remember the Rashi that with Esav, he always had, brings the Medrash Gemara that he always had, onto what's new? Rabbeinu HaKodesh, and who was the Roman emperor at the time? Antoninus?
Antoninus, yeah. They call him in philosophy Marcus Aurelius.
Okay, thank you.
Antoninus is the Hebrew name, yeah.
Thank you very much. So Rashi says they both had always the best foods on their table, even though it was out of season. Remember that, Rashi? It's a Gemara. So what's the pshat?
Like us.
Just for a moment, I don't want to get into this. I came to shul, I still daven, Baruch Hashem, Purim, the first minions of Osikin, because then I have the rest of the day. And I came to shul there yesterday. I saw a challah that's almost as tall as I am. And only one part of it was cut off, and the rest was sitting on a crate outside, waiting for the garbage, or maybe for someone to take it. And I said to myself, people in Ukraine don't have what to eat. And look what's going on over here. Anyway, so when you said that, Hillel, that's what it reminded me of. Anyway, let's get back to the subject. So, what do we see from that Gemara? It's not that Rabbeinu HaKadosh didn't have access to the best of foods. He had access to the best of foods at all times. And he ate it. It's not that he didn't eat it. When the Gemara says, Velvel, that he had access to that food, that means that he and his family and his friends ate that food. Otherwise, it's like telling me, oh, I have this piece of art and it's locked up in a room and no one ever looks at it, so big deal. Or a stock that's worth so much and you never redeem, okay, it's nice to leave over to your kids and grandkids and friends, but there's no hana. No, Rabbeinu HaKadosh had hana. But the hana, the satisfaction that he had from the Gashmias, was l'shem shamayim. And that answers the question, Yaini. If you eat at the Shabbos Chon, the Einik Shabbos. That's what you hear out here. Einik Shabbos. Einik Shabbos. You want to have the Hasidim have Eyer and Zwiebel, eggs and onions on Shabbos. That's something that the Hasidim generally have. Or farfel, right? I heard the other day, why do they serve farfel? Because to tell you that what happened before is farfallen. Farfallen is Yiddish word meaning, either it means it's too late, farfallen, or it means it's like wiped away. So we eat on Shabbos farfel, I think, or Yonason might have told me this, someone told me this. We eat on Shabbos farfel to say that what we did during the week is over. My friends, it's over if you eat Shabbos like a Yid. If you stuff yourself with taiva of the farfel and the eir and mitzvibul, you're one big egg and onions and farfel and you're about taiva. It's silly. It's silly to think otherwise. It's just silly. It's false Torah. I'm sorry to say that. And if you look at the tzaddikim, overall, there maybe was a tzaddik or two had an avoid of stuffing some food, and that's an exception. I can't, But overall, take a look at not just the Rebbe. Take a look at other tzaddikim. The Belzer, the Satmar, all these tzaddikim, they had a little bit, the rest they gave away. No one was indulging in food. Ayat Shabbos? Stuff yourself? No. So that's what we're learning over here. K'Rabbeinu HaKadosh. And by the way, Rabbi Yoel explained, why does the Alter Rebbe choose the words like our holy Rebbe, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, if it refers to Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi? Right? It's Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, Rabbi Yehuda the Prince. So why doesn't the Alter Rebbe say Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi? Because he wants to allude to us that this is Shaykh for us, because he's a Rebbe for us all. He's Rabbeinu. He's not Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, the Rabbi Yehuda. He's Rabbeinu. Since he's Rabbeinu, he's our Rebbe. He's our teacher. It means it applies to us. And how? The answer is by eating it l'shem shamayim. And that's why the Alter Rebbe brings it. Let's go back to the language. Elim kain, unless you eat this food, he didn't have any satisfaction outside of Torah, of l'shem shamayim, like Rabbeinu HaKadosh, and we could do that. Why? Just one more second, I'll take your point. As I said in the last few weeks and during the shurim on these ideas, we're encouraged to have food, to have intimacy, to have other types of shaykhs to Gashmis, association with Gashmis, but to do it in a holy way, to do it l'shem shamayim. That's the whole structure, and that makes us different. The Havdil, Zen Buddhists and all kinds of philosophies and ideologies and religions, where there's the peak experience of nirvana, whatever. You can ask Hillel maybe more about those things. He knows more about it than I do. But, the idea was like to be separate, the holy cow and Hinduism. I don't want to go into all these things. The point is, for us, the greatest thing is to sneak into your rabbi's room, your rebbe's room, to see how he's intimate with his wife, as the Gemara says. Someone will say, that's a voyeur. That's a real schmutz. The Gemara says it. I don't say it. The Gemara says it. And why is the Gemara saying it? The Gemara is preaching being a voyeur? No. The Gemara says you have to learn how to do such a mitzvah of intimacy, which is really gashmias, in the holy way. L'shem Shemayim, learn from your Rebbe. Now you can't just be in the room, it's private. So you sneak under the bed, or you sneak in the closet. We're not suggesting this to anyone, but the concept. And that's, God forbid, everything today is taken out of proportion to put in cameras and all these things. It's illegal and disgusting, and but we're talking about this idea of using Gashmias for L'Shem Shemayim K'Rabbeinu HaKodesh. Hillel, it's your turn.
Yeah, I really have a question, problem with this, because Rabbeinu Kadosh, he said this on the last day of his life. Hillel says in the Mishnah, Al ta'amin ba'atzmecha v'kol yimei chagaka. When I take on this idea that I'm eating L'Shem Shemayim, there's a part of me, a convincing part of me, that says, who am I kidding? Right? Who do I think I'm kidding? Right? Like I may have an intention like that. I do have an intention like that, but I have many other mixed intentions. So this idea that it's of the example of Rabbeinu Kadosh that's problematic for me, because maybe a person could say that about on the last day of their life, like I never had enough from anything in this world. I'm going out with my fingers raised in that way, but I would be concerned about Hillel's admonition in Pirkei Avos, Al ta'amin ba'atzmecha. Don't think too highly of yourself throughout your life.
Okay, I hear your point. It doesn't say here or in the Gemara that you shouldn't be concerned about Hillel's concern. Rabbeinu HaKodesh, he didn't say this about himself. The Gemara is saying that this.
He did say it. He said it on the last day of his life.
Yeah, but he didn't. But he didn't say it. He didn't say it in a bragging way. He was saying it like, "Listen, I lived my life, and I had the best of the best, and Baruch Hashem, I was able to do it lishma." I mean, he's not bragging. Why do you have to say that he's bragging and boasting? But
I'm not saying he's bragging, but I would be concerned. Chas v'shalom. I wouldn't say that about him, but I'd be concerned if I was talking to myself. If I was saying to myself, "I'm eating this L'Shem Shemayim," not.
Yeah, right. So
I could say that.
Right. So
how much I meant it, I would be skeptical of.
You're right. And great point. And that's the right attitude. We just said that balance is relevant for us daily. In other words, if a person works on eating something L'Shem Shemayim, and by the way, it could be done. And when you, and when you think that way, you'll eat less, you'll eat the right food, and you won't indulge as much. But at the same time, you say, look, I still have some taiva there. That's fine. The Alter Rebbe's point, I'm glad you brought this up. The Alter Rebbe's point is one that could the Hillel. Of course we can't be a Rabbeinu HaKodesh. But he's saying is the idea of L'Shem Shemayim is not a foreign idea to the average Jew in the Jewish experience if you invest in that avodah. That's all. So, I mean, you're picking up on the statement of Hillel, your namesake. Don't trust in yourself and hear this. I hear it, and it's a good point that you make about the last day. I didn't see or hear from Rabbi Yoel a comment on that, which is interesting to think about and to look up to see if there is, because that's a very good point. But I believe the the flow of the section here in Tanya is emphasizing the L'Shem Shemayim. The L'Shem Shemayim. And that you should know when you say you're kidding yourself, who are kidding. It doesn't have to be that way. In other words, to say that we're tzaddikim and bali darga, yeah, then if someone convinces themselves they're very foolish. But to say that I tried not indulging, and I tried eating with a bracha more, the kavona, and I ate slower, and I spoke divrei Torah, and there are things that a person can do in their gashmis, and I've told you this all along, all the shiurim, over the years, the whole idea, in every mitzvah. And that's why the Alter Rebbe says it here. And guess what? That's the only way to get rid of chibud hakever. That point I didn't mention yet. What he's saying here is Ela im kain, only, there's one way of avoiding chibud hakever. Otherwise, everyone's getting chibud hakever. The answer is if you will emulate the L'Shem Shemayim that Hillel so excelled in, and when we emulate it, even, one time and another time, we get less chibud hakever. Naturally, if someone has perfected their life like a Hillel, then they're not getting chibud hakever at all. But let's take per item, this food item. I could eat it l'shem taiva. I can eat it stam. And I can eat it, or I can eat it l'shem shemayim. So on this particular food item, if you eat it l'shem shemayim, for this you're not getting chibud hakever. That's an amazing thing. Like we know the one second, like we know how many times I'm getting chibud hakever. It's not about how many times. Yeah, the goof, our goof. It's like we have a few doctors here. Nebuch, someone's very sick, and you see them suffering. Every day they suffer less is a big deal. So if you have one less time chibud hakever, it's a big deal. That's what he's saying here. Yes, Hillel.
The way the Baal Shem Tov was not to emphasize fasting, people taking on fasting, though.
Right.
Many of my relatives fast Mondays and Thursdays for during the daylight hours and like that. But was the idea of fasting, sort of before the Baal Shem Tov's emphasis, a way of kind of minimizing the damage of chibud hakever?
Yeah,
like a spiritual plan,
Yeah, I think those.
I'm gonna do my suffering while I'm still in the body.
I think there was that approach by especially Mekubalim. Yes, absolutely, and that's why the Alter Rebbe in Igeres HaTshuva. What does the Alter Rebbe say? Just yesterday, another doctor asked me about this. Just yesterday, a good friend. He sent me the page. He says the Alter Rebbe says that although tzedakah, giving of tzedakah, will replace fasting, nevertheless, a Yireh Shamayim should fast. And he's asking me, should he fast Monday and Thursday and Bahab and all those things? So I said that the Rebbe said, all I can say is our Rebbe said that we are, weaker than even the Alter Rebbe's time, and therefore it's preferable not to do it. But I said to him, if a person has a personal feeling, and he's strong, and he's not going to do less work in his office and not learn less because he's fasting, you can get the best of both worlds. Give tzedakah, fast, learn, and work. No problem. Understand? I think I told you, a friend of mine was doing a business deal with someone who worked for the Teva Pharmaceuticals in Eretz Yisrael, was Chodesh Elul. And they went out to eat, they in the Renaissance, one of the hotels. My friend comes and he's sitting down, they order to eat breakfast, and the person's wearing a kippah sruga, he's Mizrahi, B'nai Akiva, and he's not eating. So he says, why don't you eat? It's kosher. He says, it's Chodesh Elul. We have to fast. I fast half a day, 3/4 of the day for tshuva. And he wasn't a Lubavitcher, and he says but he learned Tanya, and he took it seriously. It was just like now, that's wonderful. I mean, that's special. That's special. But overall, I would say that the Alter Rebbe and then the Rebbe kind of, changed the direction. But 100% of the Chassidim fast and the Mekubalim fast. The Baal Shem Tov came along and felt that the extremity of fasting, where it disturbed your day and disturbed your Avodas Hashem, and you couldn't function, and you lay down to sleep 2-3 hours and all that, and you're ice mensch, what's the purpose? So when Chazal tell us to fast, we exert ourselves. And if not, we give tzedakah instead. But to answer your question, the answer is yes. Yeah, I know people who give amounts of tzedakah based on the amount of fast that the Alter Rebbe brings in Igeres HaTshuva, I think Reish Nun Beis 252, and they give that amount of tzedakah specifically to atone for the sins. Only problem is you have to know how many times you did that sin. Okay, let's learn a little more and then we'll finish. Okay. And he says, so now he finished talking about food. Now Moshe, he speaks about idle talk. Very common in our world. We sit around shooting the breeze, as we say in English. Or in Yiddish, hacking a chaynik, just wasting time. So when you see idle talk, that's permissible, not vulgar, obscene jokes and ideas and all that, but rather it's permissible, kegoin. Look at this example he gives. Ama Oretz, an ignoramus, someone who doesn't know any Torah and doesn't know Aleph Beis, he doesn't know how to learn. Right? So that's called Dvarim B'Teilim Beheter. In other words, since he doesn't know how to learn, he just shoots the breeze. He can talk. So it's Dvarim B'Teilim Beheter, because if you know how to learn and you don't learn, that's an Isser, right? Right? We learned that already in the first page of Tanya. If you don't learn Torah, you're able to one moment, it's a prohibition. Here we're talking about not a prohibition, something that's permissible. So what's the example? How's that possible? If he's an Amoritz, if he's ignorant, so then you can't expect him to learn. But nevertheless, he's speaking by idle talk. Says the Alter Rebbe, you still need to have purification from this klipa, this negativity. Through the gilgul known as the slinging in the palm, like the soul is thrown from one end to the other end. But for forbidden speech, frivolity, and gossip, everything similar, they are from the three contaminated klippas. Ein kafakela levado, in brackets. Kafakela alone does not moil help to remove the contamination for the soul. Here you have to have another additional issue, which is descending to Gehenna, purgatory, whatever, the equivalent. So too, someone who's able to learn Torah. He knows how to learn, he's able to learn, but yet he chooses to be involved with wasting time in idle conversation. Kafakela itself does not help to purify a soul, and Markul Zacha to refine it. Very sad. He needs bitter punishments. Shemanishima bittul Torah beprotius, that he will get for being mevatel, for annulling the time when he's able to learn specifically. Milvado in shakloli, in addition to the general punishment, l'chol bittul mitzvah say, for anyone that's mevatel, that annuls any positive commandment, machbas atzlus, due to laziness, And what is that punishment? Gehenim shel sheleg. There's something called Gehenim shel sheleg. Gehenim of sheleg, of snow. Snow is cold. So when you're just apathetic and you just waste time, it's like coldness. And that's why you get this punishment. As explained elsewhere. Chevra, remember Mr. Shem? Yes. What?
Rabbi, it gives a new meaning to when it says that it's going to be a cold day in hell.
I like that, especially because I can see on the screen the sky and the clouds and the Bet Shemesh. It's great. Yes, Yonason, go ahead.
Yeah, when you say Kafa Kele, you mean the decomposition of the body in the grave?
No. Why Kafa Kele is...
No, Kibbutz HaKever, the beating of the grave.
Yeah.
That's the decomposition.
Yes, that, yeah.
They were tzaddikim.
Yes.
They were tzaddikim. They opened up
Right.
the body.
Right, so that you understand, that's chibud hakever. Here we're talking about, that we learned earlier. Here we're talking about kaf hakela. Kaf hakela is like, you like playing basketball? We'll make you play basketball and get Gan Eden for endless amount of time until you have purification. But I had enough basketball. I want to go rest. No way. In other words, we torture the soul in a way like we give you the extreme of what you wanted. So it's the extreme position that causes pain. No, I'm tired. I want to relax. I don't want to play any more ball. So that's... Yeah? What?
Yeah, well, the way I understood that was they show you where you could have been, and then they show you where you are. And then they show you where you could have been, and then they show you where you are.
Okay, I've heard that too, and I think they go together. In other words...
And there's nothing you can do about it now. There's nothing you can do.
Chevra, we'll end on a good note. It's a hemshech of Purim, and now we get ready for Pesach. We have 30 days, so we should all have Geula in our life. Remember, on Monday, it's 6-hour difference only, so for you, not for me, for you, it's 1 hour before the Shir, right? Because it's 6 hours.
Right.
So remember that until you guys change.
We'll be starting at 1:40 is what you're saying?
Yeah, 1:40. You'll be starting in Eretz Yisrael 1:40 this year. Have a great Shabbos to everyone. Zayda Zun, take care. Only Psuras Taivas. Good Shabbos. Take care.